Blacks in technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.
Good evening and welcome to the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast, the show where we talk to people of color who are engineers, innovators, educators, inventors, and entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. This is episode number 92, and our guests tonight are Tameika Reed and Dionne Parler, and they are the Women in Linux. This podcast is where they share their experiences, ideas, knowledge, and perspective on tech with the Bit community. I'm your host, Greg Greenlee, and if this is your first time listening, you can check Blacks in Technology out at www.blacksintechnology.net. We are also on Twitter at Black in Technology, and that's BLKTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook, and that's facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. Also have a ever-growing LinkedIn group, and that's under Blacks in Technology as well. So check us out on LinkedIn. And if you are on Twitter tonight and you're listening in and you have questions for our guests, tweet them to us using the hashtag BitTechTalk, BITTECHTALK. Blacks in Technology is a tech-focused community and media organization, and we're focused on increasing diversity in technology. We're also focused on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, or if you have any general inquiries or inquiries related to sponsorship, send us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net. Okay, so now for some announcements. As I mentioned last podcast, and I'll keep mentioning it until these conferences actually happen, Self-Conference is going down May 20th and the 21st. It's happening in Detroit, the Motor City. And it's a Self-Conference is a mix of fantastic tech presentations and insightful tech talks and fabulous downtown Detroit. 2 whole days in the middle of May with mobile, web, hardware, software process, and team talks to help you expand your knowledge, meet other technically minded folk, and immerse yourself in Detroit's tech renaissance. And I'm pretty sure Blacks in Technology will be holding another meetup there. We did last year. It went pretty well. I'm hoping to see even more people there this year. Again, that's May 20th, 21st. Self-Conference happening in Detroit. Closure West, that's the Closure Conference, the developers conference happening in Seattle, Washington. That's April 15th and the 16th. There is a luncheon, a Blacks in Technology luncheon happening on Friday. I want to say around 11-ish, 11:45-ish or something like that. Check the website out. I have a blog post up there about it. Danielle Smith, it will be the person hosting that luncheon. She is an advisor here at Blacks in Technology, so definitely check us out there. That is Closure West. We still have some passes to give away for Closure West. If you are in the Seattle, Washington area and you're interested in attending that conference, give me a shout. Or actually, there's a form to fill out on the site. If you can't find it, just send me an email at contact us at blacksintechnology.net. Also, the same for the Self-Conference. We do have a couple of tickets or free or sponsored passes to give away. If you're interested in attending that conference, there should be a link in the blog post for that, but if not, just send me an email, contact us at blacksintechnology.net. One major announcement that I do want to make, this is a big one, is that this week we announced our partnership with the Linux Foundation, which is huge. If you are not aware of the Linux Foundation, let me read the blurb real quick. So Linux Foundation reached out to Blacks in Technology. They want to help increase diversity in tech. They're real sincere about doing so, and they partner with us and another organization to not only increase diversity in tech, but they want to give access to children as well. So that partnership happened this week on Tuesday. The Linux Foundation is a nonprofit organization, And I'm trying to find the blurb here. I thought I had it, but I don't. Where is it? Okay, now I'm drawing a blank. All right, I can't find it, but check the blog out on Blacks in Technology. You'll see the blog there. Blacks in Technology partners with the Linux Foundation to increase diversity in tech. So what does this mean for the members of Blacks in Technology? So this partnership is going to include some free passes to a number of different conferences that's organized by the Linux Foundation. That includes the Open Networking Summit here in March. Actually, that's passed. So Embedded Linux Conference is happening in April in San Diego. Vault, Apache Big Data North America, that's happening in May. ApacheCon North America happening in May. MesosCon, LinuxCon is happening in Toronto, Canada. That is happening in August. I will be hopefully attending that. LinuxCon Europe, Embedded Linux Europe. So that's just a few of the open source events that are happening. So that's one part of it. The other part is free access to some of their training material. And they have some pretty good training material. They have everything from the fundamentals of Linux, essentials of systems administration. They have stuff on OpenStack, advanced Linux system administration and networking, Linux security, high availability, Linux architecture, quite a bit of stuff. Linux enterprise automation, software-defined networking with Open Daylight. So, what this means is that we now have access to training material in Linux, and we have access to some of these big-name conferences that are going to be going on. I will be putting up a blog post or putting up a link on how you can take advantage of these opportunities that's been provided to us. Pretty soon, probably within the next couple of days, there'll be a couple of forms for people to fill out, and, depending on which of these opportunities you're interested in. And so I'll make the announcement on Twitter. I'll shoot it out on Facebook. I'll shoot it out on LinkedIn as well when I put that up. So be on the lookout for that. What's next? Startup of the week is Fresh Stacks. So big up to Fresh Stacks. I'm going to read a little bit about they're making fresh produce accessible to everyone. So check out blacksintechnology.net for the startup of the week. It's their Twitter handle is @WeLoveFreshStacks, and they're a company that is making fresh produce accessible. So they have an online presence where they deliver organic, ready-to-blend smoothie kits to people's doors using a weekly subscription model, and then they donate the same fresh produce to the underserved community in South Central LA each time they make a delivery. So a pretty cool story. That's the Bit Startup of the Week. Fresh Stacks. Stacks is STAX, not CKS. So check them out. And any more? I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's. Oh no. Well, one last announcement. A number of jobs that are on the jobs board. We have front end designer for Sparkbox out of Dayton, Ohio. Interaction developer, Gravity Tank out of Chicago, Illinois. Grand Circus out of Detroit is looking for a coding boot instructor who specializes in Java or .NET, C#. And Stripe out of San Francisco is looking for a recruiting coordinator. So check out the jobs board on blacksintechnology.net if you're interested in any of those jobs. One last thing. I know I said the last thing was the last thing, but this is the last thing. So Slack. Check out our Slack group, man. It's growing. I want to pop in there real quick. We're up to 434 members in our Slack group, and it's very active. A lot of the channels, we have everything from, health, fitness, tech, to information security, to Linux, free open source software, to music, to everything, startups, entrepreneurs, tech. So if you during your day, sometimes you get downtime or whatever, and people want to talk about the latest whatever, whether it's tech, whether it's a social issue, pop in our channel, join it, pop in there, chat with a bunch of people. A lot of cool folks in there, a lot of activity going on, a lot of great conversations. All right, so that's that. I took a little bit longer than what I thought, but we're getting to the meat of this podcast, and this podcast is Women in Linux. Tonight we have Tameika Reed and Dionne Parler on the show here tonight. And Tameika, she founded Women in Linux out of frustration that there was no women or women of color represented at the workplace or tech events. She's a self-taught Linux administrator since 2000. She's provided countless hours to help people get started in Linux in conjunction with the NAACP. She's provided families with basic computer training and life skills and consulting to the Education Foundation on how to introduce Linux and other tech careers to Florida students. Dionne, she brings to Women in Linux over 15 years of progressive experience in operations that span multiple industries. She specializes in day-to-day project leadership, marketing, and sales, managing business systems to servicing multi-million-dollar sales pipeline. And she credits Tameika with exposing her to a career in tech. And I had the opportunity and the joy to meet both of these women at PuppetConf this year, but I met Tameika last year meaning not the last PuppetConf, but PuppetConf 2014 that happened in San Francisco. I met her briefly there, and then we hung out a little bit more at PuppetConf 2015. So I want to welcome both of you to the Big Tech Talk podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. I was waiting for the applause and stuff. I was like, what's supposed to be rah, rah, rah?
You know what? You caught me on an off night. I don't have that. Just because you said that, now I'm going to cue it up. I'm going to cue up some claps. Let me see. Where's my claps at?
Hold on. I got it.
Jingles.
Got it.
Okay. That'll work for right now. I have to find them. But I know I have claps in the arsenal somewhere.
Okay.
So let's get started. So I'm going to start with Tameika. Give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, your education.
Okay. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, Decatur to be exact, and I actually went to like 6 different schools because my husband at the time was military, so I ended up graduating from DeVry in Seattle. And from before I had graduated, I actually started my own Linux training back when I lived in Hawaii. So for a little background about me, I just went to this. I was in a Cisco class, and the guy said, "Hey, this looks like Linux," and I thought Cisco. If I learned this Linux, I would be good at Cisco. Didn't know, had no clue, and kind of just taught myself Linux from there.
Okay. What about you, Tameika? I'm sorry, Dionne.
Well, I grew up in San Francisco, California, Silicon Valley, and we didn't get any of that education coming up, which is amazing. I graduated from Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia, with a degree in social work.
Okay, so how did you get started in technology then, Dionne?
Well, come to find out, I was always in technology. I was always trying to automate my clients' systems with cloud services like Google Apps for their infrastructure, something that was pretty easy to maintain and the price point was low. And it wasn't until Tameika brought it to my attention that I would be good in technology and I was already doing it. It was something that I had been doing at least for the last, I can say 5 or 6 years. So I've always had an operational background, but it wasn't until they were like, okay, well, hey. Tameika was like, hey, well, you're in technology. And I was like, okay. She was like, no, let's get you doing some Linux.
Hey.
Nice.
Go ahead. It's one of those things, like, for me, it's like, I've been doing it now for Linux for 16 years. And to have someone, come along and say, hey, I'm willing to learn here's a chance. So, you know, you take a chance. You're in it. You know how it is. If somebody's willing to take at least 2 hours out of their day to be a sponge, you know, you're going to run with it because you're like, I'm tired of being alone.
Right. And we've talked about this before at conferences. We had discussions about you know, either mentoring or what. So have you had any experiences? And I know I have, with people who aren't actually, you know, who come to you and say, hey, I want to learn, and then all of a sudden they don't really put the effort in. And
all the time.
All the time.
All the time. And I attribute that effort to, or lack of effort, I should say. I attribute that to a lack of not just commitment, because I think it's a little bit more than that, because I think sometimes when you're looking at it from a perspective of somebody who's going to school, or they're going to school for something, and then you expose them to something else, they kind of get overwhelmed. Right. So it's kind of like, it's a combination of things, I should say. It's a lack of commitment, a lack of uncertainty, and then on top of that, a lack of frustration. And so it's sometimes you have to kind of, you know, put it out there and see what the person is going to bite on. But in the end, if they never come back after you've made this gallant effort, you know, you just know that person just wasn't the one for you to try that with. It may be the next person. I don't ever give up, right, but it does get frustrating.
Right. And what was it for you, Dionne, that actually kept you in it?
What kept me in it was I wanted to learn something different. And, of course, my friend was a Linux administrator, and she tried to teach me, and I just fell asleep on her, like, mouth open, fell asleep. Like, when a person that has been in it for so long tries to teach you, you know, it's just like she was talking way over my head, and I just lulled out on her on that. But we ended up finding, you know, just some different resources that she didn't have accessible to her, which was like the Linux Academy and a couple of books and things of that nature. And
right,
for me, it was just like, okay, I'm doing it, and I'm listening to these videos, and they're self-paced, and they're easy to follow along, but it's not easy. Like, you have to want to learn it. You know, you
right,
have to want to stick it out. It is it's not something that you're going to learn overnight. And, you know, my biggest challenge was, okay, now that I know this, there was no doors opening up for me as far as getting an internship or getting a job doing Linux, because you need real world experience, you know, right, to put this technology in action. So, and then also for me, I've been, you know, I'm a professional. I'm 40 years old, so it wasn't like I was a new college student. So coming in the game is just like, okay, how do you build off of the experience that you already have in the workforce and navigate? Because, you know, coming in the door, they want you to be entry level with 5 years of experience. Well, nobody wants to give you any of that experience. Then you're just left with more debt, because a lot of people go ahead and do the immersive type of programs. Those things are not cheap. They're like $16,000 for you to spend not to have a job.
Right. And yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where it does take a commitment to learn, and nowadays it's a tad bit easier. Than it was when I first started in Linux, and, you know, loading the operating system from from a bunch of floppies, or even when you did kernel compiles back in the day, and you did your own kernel compiles, and you messed up one parameter and you break your system.
Right.
I mean, those things are a lot more automated nowadays. Right. I mean, it's fairly easy, but there's still some things under the hood if you're really trying to get into Linux, that as far as systems administration and things like that, there are some topics that are a little bit more difficult to learn. So I applaud sites like Linux Academy for what they're doing, because they do have that self-pay. I even use it still nowadays, and just to go over and keep certain things fresh in my mind. But it takes a commitment and a willingness to dive into something that's unfamiliar to you, because most people who start off in computers normally start off with the Windows platform, where everything is simple point and click. And then when you start doing things like, hey, here's the command line, and it's like, oh yeah, that's boring, or oh, why do I?
Yeah, you can't really.
Whatever.
Where does this go? Where is the instant gratification? And then with some sites like the Linux Foundation, I took their course when it first came out through edX as well. But they assume that everybody that is coming to learn Linux is a natural-born tinkerer. It's that perception that all geeks, we have like glasses, pocket protectors, and we want to take apart the computer and just kind of learn it on our own, and we're going to figure it out. Well, a lot of people just don't have the time or the resources to figure it out, because it's self-paced. So everybody's not up at the same time. Everybody doesn't learn at the same pace. And it's just like you have like, oh, you should finish this in 8 hours. And it's just like, okay, it's been a week. Who do I go to figure it out? Luckily, the Google knows all things, but it's still like that frustration of like, okay, I need some help.
Yeah, and then for me, my background was a little different. What I did to learn. What was the guy in my class, my Cisco class, was like, this is just like Linux. I bought a computer for him, a compact Presario for $72, and it had SUSE Linux on it. And I was like, man, how do I get on the internet now? Because I'm coming from a Windows world. And he was like, you need to figure that out. And I was like, man, it's kind of hard. You know what I mean? This is hardcore. Figure it out. I don't even know what I'm doing. So what I did is I looked online. I hopped back on my Windows box, and I figured out that Barnes & Nobles had Linux books. I went to Barnes & Nobles, and this is back when you could buy Linux off the shelf in Barnes & Nobles. And I went and I bought. I went and bought a Red Hat distribution off the shelf, and I went and bought 3 Linux books. And I went through the books, and I learned, and I installed Linux, and I taught myself, and I took out some paper, and I would write my notes down. And so, and I still had that binder as well, but I would write my notes down in a binder, and then I would take what I learned, because I ended up getting an internship in Linux, because the guy that interviewed me said, do you know Linux? I said, yeah, I know Linux real well. Well, I took some Linux classes at school. But those Linux classes at school were garbage. They were like, this is how you cat, this is how you run these commands. It had nothing to do with what I needed to know when I got to the job. When I got to the job, they were like, you need to recompile this kernel, you need to build us a driver, and you need to set up this network. I'm like, okay, the network I can do. Building a driver, I haven't built a driver. I just learned how to grep a file and join commands together. Like I don't know. So I dove off into what I didn't know, and I set up my own home lab. And I went on eBay and I bought like 3 or 4 computers. I bought a whole Cisco stack. I got 2950s, I got some 1950s, and I got some routers. And I set up my own little network, because I was doing Cisco and Linux at the same time. And I was going to school. So I did all of that at home, and I would I would sit in a room at night and just try to figure it out. So when I got up and went to work, I wasn't so far behind.
Wow. So here's what I grabbed out of there that I think is very important, that I always preach anytime I talk to students or whoever. I tell them to get there. If you're serious about getting into technology and you want to learn, you're not always going to learn everything you need to know, just by for instance, going to work or whatever, because there's things that, that people might do at work that they don't have time to, take out of their day and show you or teach you or whatever. Or there's things that they're going to expect you to know. And if you're not up to speed, you need to be able to go somewhere and get up to speed. So I always tell everybody to get your own lab. Set up your own network at home, install your own operating systems, break your own computers, fix them, do whatever, find stuff online that you want to do, build your web server, build your DNS server, build your file server, do all these things so that you know how these pieces fit together, and at least so you'll have the base understanding of what these things are, what they do, and how to administer them to a point, right? So, you can do as much as you want at home. It's more of a controlled environment. Things are going to look a little bit different when you're out in the wild or wherever. But the base of that is always going to be rooted in the fundamentals. So if you learn those things and you got something at home that you can tinker on. I mean, right now I still got 3 boxes, full tower boxes, and a rack of Cisco gear sitting on my face right now. And I mean, I probably always have that because, A, that's what I like doing. But B, there's going to be things that I come across at my job or whatever that I don't know, and I can't spend, the entire company time, or maybe even if I could spend that company time doing it, right? What if I don't complete it? That, I have to have somewhere where I can spend VMs up or do whatever and learn the stuff. So that people don't understand how huge that is. And, I run into people, who I talk to classes of students and things like that. And some of them, and this might be because of different situations or circumstances, but one of the things I like to drive home is it's like, hey, nowadays it doesn't cost that much to get you a couple of PCs, because you don't need much to run Linux anyhow, right? So go on Craigslist, get you a couple of PCs,
$60,
$50 a piece, right? And get your lab.
Book, it'll take you a long way. The A+ certification book, I was like, I needed this from the start. It was like an aha moment, and it for me, it let me know how much I already knew as far as setting up a home network, what these wires do. It gave me like a technical name for it, because all it is the language.
Right.
These wires have purposes. You're like, oh, okay, it's blue now because of this. Oh, okay, great. I know this. And it makes you feel not as dumb.
And see, I'm from the standpoint like the A+ book. Yeah, okay. Me, I'm like, yeah, that's nice. The A+ book, okay, that's great. And so when I get people that say, can I get a job with A+, I'm like, you can get a job with A+ in Cisco, or you can get a job with A+ in such and such. And I only say that because it depends on what your goal is. You can get a job and do help desk stuff, but how long are you going to do help desk stuff? How long do you want to be in the position? Because it's a pigeonhole position. You can work your way up, or you can learn something in conjunction with, so that it makes you more marketable, and it challenges you. So, I agree. I agree with the home lab. I'm still like a home lab person, but I also agree with doing the cloud stuff. Now, the other problem that you may get with doing like spinning up an instance on DigitalOcean or AWS or Rackspace is you don't really get the full blown setup of system administration unless you study how to network and do like a private network versus a public network, unless you've done all of that already and you're setting up your VMs in such a way. So then you can get that exposure then, but nevertheless, you can do that at home, and you could do that with containers, and you can do that with VMs and KVM and all of that. But I'm still a firm believer of grab a server, and rack it up and spin it up and blow a fan on it so it stay cool.
Right.
And,
right.
And go from there.
Right. And just to kind of add on to the whole A+ discussion. I mean, I don't want to knock anybody who seeks the A+ because I think I started with the A+, and I think it's a good starting point for people that are brand new. But what I usually tell people when it comes to that is, depending on where you want to go in your tech career, use the A+ information for the knowledge, right? But seek higher certifications to actually get certified in. And what I mean by that is, it's okay for you to get the books and you learn the basics of, OS installation, hardware, things like that, things that the A+ teaches you about. Right. But those things cost money.
Right.
That's what, $250 a pop for each one of the A+ certification tests.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, hold on to your money, and get something that's going to make you a little bit more marketable and more sought after. So whether or not that's, the LPIC or the RECE or whatever, or even a Microsoft certification or whatever, do one of those, something that's going to make you, because A+, it is entry level. Well, and one of the things I don't like seeing is people who get into the entry level position and then just stay there. Stuck there.
And here's where the big catcher is here, and they stay there. It's partly due to lack of exposure into what else could I do. And
right.
where else can I go? And so, that's kind of like why I think women in Linux is so important is because, okay, suppose you have a girl coming out of college and she programmed and she go program for 2 years and she realized, I don't want to program anymore. What else can I do? Well,
right.
you can make a transition and you can learn Puppet, and you can take your same developmental skills that you learned or developer skills that you learned and then apply that to doing system automation.
Right.
You can take that and you
right.
can say, okay, well, I can go write out an API in security because I've learned how to program, how to code. I learned my if-else statements, my functions and while loops and so forth and so on. And I've learned, inheritance and composition and, go from there and take that same knowledge and apply it somewhere else. But you wouldn't know that unless you got exposure to it. And so that's, for me, that's one of the biggest things about women in Linux and attending the conferences and networking and going to the meetups and, just hitting the ground. It's a grind. Don't get me wrong. It is a grind.
Yeah.
I have grinded for 16 years. However, I have learned a lot in those 16 years. I have learned that when I go into interviews, I probably know more than the person that's interviewing me. And I probably know more,
right.
You know what I mean? I know more, and these are not like, small interviews. I've interviewed all over the world, Booking.com in Amsterdam and so forth and so on. But however, I know that I come with being ready because I've studied it, and it's a constant study, and you have to keep your books constantly in rotation, dog-eared and highlighted. That's just what you have to do. But don't give up on doing that because the reward is great, and then sometimes is even greater.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Tameika, and I know you this. I mean, that's what this podcast is about. It's about Linux. So what do you in particular? What do you like about Linux, and why do you think it's important for other people to learn?
I like Linux because I like the journey. Like I like to figure out why something doesn't work or get it to work, or I like being, more or less like kind of like behind the scenes. I like the infrastructure side of things. So for me, it's really a good feeling to see like, okay, man, I'm getting ready to build out this V cloud over here. I've taken this sand out of the box. I racked it. I zoned it. I hooked up the fiber channel. I got iSCSI going, and then I go from there. What's important about being in Linux to me is because I think it's a foundation to other things. Like I just mentioned storage. You could learn Linux and you can do storage administration by doing EMC, iSCSI, NFS mounts, or what have you. That's another job. You can go into security. You can do development work. You can do it's so many other things, and you can do the same thing in Windows as well too. But for me, I like Linux because of the just the command line and the ground level, and it's something that I did on my own. So I take joy and I take pride in. I get excited about a new project, or how can I do this or make this automated. That's fun for me.
Nice. And Dionne, so you've been more in the project leadership, a marketing, sales type of role. How has Linux assisted you in those positions?
For me, it's given me a better understanding of what goes on the tech side, the nitty gritty, everything that Tameika just says. A lot of project managers, they come in and they never go to the technical team to find out what they're doing, how they've been doing it, and how long realistically will it take for us to change some things. And so it's given me a better understanding of what really goes on, so I can take it back to the stakeholders and give them realistic expectations, because the executives always want things how they want to do it, and it doesn't necessarily happen like that, and it causes a rift in between the two departments. So it helps me not to have to do all that back and forth. As far as the marketing, I have a better understanding about the products and how they work, because I can, build up a box and, upload and have I have like on my Mac right now, I have my Mac OS and I have a Linux box with my Windows on here. Like, how many people can say they can do that and know what it takes to do that? So as far as like marketing products, to everyday users and make it obtainable for them, it's made my understanding so much greater. And as far as the sales, I think these products they sell themselves. One of the big things about Linux is Linux runs everything. And when you tell people that Linux is running their cell phones, and when they turn it off and reboot it and all those commands that come across their screen, that's Linux. Your watch, your smartwatches is run on Linux. Your refrigerators, all of these things, your cars are embedded Linux, and you bring it to them where it's their everyday lives, they get interested. And I think that's what Linux has done for me. It has made me be able to explain the things in the simplest of terms to help expose people to the technology.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Because when you break it down to a level where it's relatable, right? Especially to younger people, and you can say, hey, your Android phone that you're playing games on right now is running a version of Linux, right? Or your smartwatch that you have on your arm, or whatever, it's running some flavor of Linux. And then it becomes a little bit more appealing. Oh, this watch, this game that I'm playing, this phone that's running is running Linux. So I've been using Linux this whole time, and I didn't even know, and I never knew it. It's like, yeah,
right.
And that way, it's a little bit. Now they have it at their fingertips, and now it's like, oh, okay, maybe this is something I'll seek out. Now I'll try to learn. So I definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So let's get into.
It just makes
Go
it
ahead.
relatable. It just makes it relatable. And that was the thing
Right.
that was missing for me when I started out. I didn't have nothing to relate to it other than Cisco networking. So, but now you think
Right.
about where Linux is, where it was, and where it came from joining sites like Just for Newbies or Just for Linux, or posting your question on a forum and somebody chewing you out because you didn't post your question right and all of that, and the etiquette, you didn't have the proper etiquette, the proper question etiquette when you pose your question. You're like, I just want to solve the problem. I don't want no beef.
Please don't be. I just want some help, please. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it you know what, and that's what's great about organizations like yours is that just having that support system for women is huge, right? Because, and you probably can attest to this as well, coming up in Linux, it was a little bit harder. And not to sound like, the old guy in the room and, hey, we had to walk uphill both ways in the freezing snow, but it was a little bit more difficult, right? It was a little bit more difficult back then. And not just from a support standpoint, but also, the operating system itself was a little bit more cumbersome to get installed and get up and running and things like that.
Right.
It's good that it's a lot easier now, because now the I guess the entry point to that barrier is not as great as it was. So I do like that aspect of it. But sometimes I would like to see, the younger people go through, because it helps train your mind to help, solve these type of problems that you might see out in the workplace. If you can get, Linux system booted up and on the network, booted up from a bunch of floppies and installed and up on the network, then you probably can do quite a bit of other stuff too. Nowadays, it's a little bit more point and clicky. We're getting, these distros installed, and it's more like Windows than anything. But I still like, being able to, do a lot of things on the command line that in Linux, and being able to solve issues that way. So there's still that part that I like.
Oh yeah, I think that's important. I think that's just building basic troubleshooting skills, and knowing that I install this NIC card and the driver is bad. Now how do I go about fixing this issue? I can't get online with my Linux box to fix the issue because the NIC card driver isn't installed. So what do I need to do? So yeah, so those things are very important.
Right. So let's get it. Let's get into. We have a couple of questions on Twitter, but I want to get into that in a second. I want to talk about women in Linux.
Mm-hmm.
What is women in Linux, and what's your and this is for Tameika. What's your vision and your mission for women in Linux?
My vision, my vision of a dream is actually to have a building where women can come and learn Linux, like in a data center, and there's rooms in the back, and you sleep and you grind it out, and you got some people in there that's going to help you with the curriculum 24/7. We're going to, you're going to come in and you're going to take out these HP servers or these Dell servers. It doesn't matter. And you're going to connect up this storage, and you're going to connect up the desktops, and you're going to, it's like a whole full-blown data center architect from desktop to end, so that you at least get an idea and a feel for everything. And included in that is security, using a Nexus, using OpenSCAT, setting up Zabbix for system monitoring, exposure to how to write your documentation. One of the biggest things is having documentation, using Confluence and Jira, and that's one of the talks that we got coming up, is installing Confluence and installing Jira, following NIST standards. All of that is what I want to expose women to, because you can look online and you can piecemeal it together, but then you don't understand how it works. But if I tell you that,
right.
you know what I mean? If I tell you we're going to set this up, this infrastructure stack up for this group of people, and you have to manually do it the first time, because now it's going to take you 4 or 5 hours to do it. But now when you come back, you're going to say, let's automate that, and that's when your tools come into play, like your Puppet, your Chef, and your Ansible. Or you make images. You know, all of that is the exposure that I'm looking to give to women that I've had exposure to. But you're not going to get that if you went to Yale or MIT, or even you might get it at a community college, but it wouldn't be that defined. But you can go to a boot camp possibly and get that, but then there's $16,000.
Right. And I like that, that frame of thinking there, because I was having this conversation with a couple of people not too long ago about the importance of, especially people of color, getting this systems engineering level of training, right? Because what I see going on, and maybe this is the engineering in me, I don't know, but what I see going on is either people are entry level, right? Mm-hmm. And they're, there's this, there's training for getting into technology. So they'll take people through A+ certification training. So I know a lot of boot camps that are like that. They're like 8 weeks, right? And then on the other end, there's coding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Coding boot camps.
Mm-hmm.
But what's in between that? Right. I don't see anything that's in between, except for things that you might find online. But I'm talking about, in person, working with the equipment and things like that.
Working with the
and I would love.
That's what I'm.
And I would love to see that.
Yeah, I want to partner with EMC. I want. Hey, CDW, give me some servers. I don't care how old they are, except for the 80s or the 90s, but 2000. But give me something to build out the curriculum where you can physically touch the hardware, because the point I'm making here is not everybody has $100,000 budget when you step on the scene as a sysadmin. You may step on the scene as a sysadmin into a small company, and especially if it's a startup and they don't have it. So they may have their stuff up in the cloud. However, even if they have their stuff up in the cloud, you still need to understand how to secure it. You still need to understand how to set up a HA proxy. You still need to understand how to set up your networking, your firewall rules. All of that still plays. All of that is still there, and it's still needed. It's still building out your infrastructure. So basically, you're building out an infrastructure on somebody else's infrastructure, which is AWS or DigitalOcean or whoever you choose. You're still doing that.
Right.
And we had this conversation with one of our board members, and he comes from a big corporate background, and we have these conversations. He's like, Tam, you do way too much. That's like architecture, and that's this, and that's that. And we're like, all companies are not millions and millions of dollars of budget. Like, the sysadmin is the everything go-to person. And he switched his lanes a little bit, and he had to come back to us, and he was like, you're so right. They want me to do everything, and I have to brush up on all of these technologies and these things that I haven't used in years.
Right.
Skill set. And so, they don't tell you, but if you want, they're pushing, a lot of entrepreneurs. You go work for these startups and things like this. When you go work for a startup, you have to wear multiple hats. They're expecting you to wear multiple hats.
Exactly.
No matter what position you're in, a project manager is going to be in sales. It's going to be in marketing. The CEO is going to be doing networking and infrastructure stuff. Like, you got to get ready.
Right. And the thing that I see, especially when it comes to, people within our community, is I want to see more. And the whole, wanting to get more Black people to become entrepreneurs and things like that. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with any way that we can get. But the reality of it is, not everybody's going to be able to do that. Not everybody is going to do that. And
not everybody wants to do it.
Right. I mean, being an entrepreneur is tough, right?
Hard work.
So I would love to see more, engineers, and I would love to see a good curriculum that's geared towards that. And right now, like I said, I don't see it on that level, right? I see it on opposite ends of the spectrum, either super entry level stuff, or like I said, it's coding, and not a lot of the systems engineering, the infrastructure, the automation, that type of thing. I would love to see a lot more of, and I come across quite a bit, because we have the LinkedIn group, and we have a lot of people in the LinkedIn group, like over 2,500. And I would love to see more, just within that group, more systems engineers and more infrastructure engineers, more Linux engineers in that group as well. So I think it's needed. So
It was something. It's been a passion project for me. It was something I always wanted to do. Like, I've been doing it for 16 years, and I never met another woman until I went to the Red Hat conference last year, and she was the first Black woman I ever met, and she was the first woman I ever met. So
wow.
It's like one of those things. Like, I hear it all the time. You're the unicorn, and it's not that I'm the unicorn. It's just, I'm just me. I'm not a unicorn, and I don't want to be a unicorn. Like, I want everyone to eat. I want everyone to be happy and be able to travel the world and hit up conferences and have somebody support them or what have you. I want everyone to eat, and this is how I know you can eat. I know it works. I've been doing it for 16 years. I know it works. I get emails all the time. I got an email the other day for someone to be to come work in Puppet remotely, making $100 an hour. And I have no one to give that job to. I have nobody to give that job to. Why? Why don't I have someone to give that job to?
And the Puppet cert is only $200 to get certified after you know. So it's just like, we always talk about, cultivating the area. For us, we are in the Tampa Bay area, and a lot of companies that we see, they go to the DC to go and recruit. And it's just like, okay, we have UF here. We got, so many schools, the University of Tampa, the Gators, the Seminoles, all of these places. The HBCUs, we got Bethune-Cookman, we got FAMU here, and FAM has an engineering program, and they are not even going to the schools in their backyard, because Florida, for those who don't know, most of your big defense contractors are out of Florida on both coasts. Wow. And so there's a plethora of great paying jobs here, but what all of the initiatives, and there's nothing wrong with coding, nothing. You need to know some code, period, point blank. But when all the initiatives are coding, and when you don't have a coding mind, or you're tired of coding, what do you do? What can you do? What do you understand? And then, even for some coders, we've had conversations where it's just like, okay, where do you think that code lives? Somebody has to build out your infrastructure. Somebody has to keep this stuff going. Like, you can't go and sit at your computer and code jack if the system not up.
Right.
What's going on? And it's just like, the stock market, they tell you to invest in what you use every day, but the stock market is bigger than Walmart. It's bigger than McDonald's. It's bigger than that type of stuff. And it's just like, it's that, we call it the technology pie. They offer you, the code, and I always say, The code is the workforce. Google is driven by code. It needs coders. So these big companies, and it's hip, it's cute to work for Google. You get Google on your resume, you can go speak and talk and do all that other type of stuff. But it pigeonholes you because money. I mean, people don't know. The average coder in California at Google is making 60. They capped it, but they give you all the cute perks. Okay, you gave me some free lunch. I'm going on this segue around the campus. It's cute. But what happens when you want to start a family? What happens when you want to move off the campus? What happens when you want to have a life outside of this system here?
Right.
What happens?
So let me ask, what initiatives do you all have in place to get more women into Linux? What are you guys doing?
So we have meetups every week. We actually do virtual meetups. You don't have to be on this coast.
Okay.
We do virtual meetups every Wednesday.
Yes.
And I do in-person meetups as well. Also doing some speaking engagements, linking up with Microsoft. I'm building my own curriculum. I'm writing the curriculum from scratch and doing all the installs and the whole nine. I have servers on DigitalOcean for people that want to come in and actually come in and start learning. Like one of the big things I'm working with Elation is actually sitting down and doing a Confluence install from beginning to end. And then once we do that install, we're going to harden the machine. Once we harden the machine, we're going to go back and install AID. We're going to go do a network scan on it to make sure that it's secure. We're going to update it, and then we're going to tear it up again, and we're going to automate all of that. So it's going to be ongoing, trying to get in the habit of saying, because for me, learning Linux that way, I think for people is a little bit more tangible versus, hey, you have this box here and you need to install Linux on it. And plus I'm remote, so I can't say everybody go get a box unless, someone gives me a box at some nice, data center, and they give me like 10 boxes, and I get some type of remote, some type of remote access where I can set up a class like that, or cool. But
right.
I don't have that access, so I have to utilize what's available to me. So what's available to me is virtual training and setting up VMs.
And I love a VM. I love a VM. Makes my world great.
So what is I was on your site, was looking around, some great information up there, by the way, and I came across the Women in Linux Summit. So tell us, Dionne, about that.
Women in Linux, of course, as you heard, we're all about infrastructure from a security standpoint, from cloud. It's going to be a 2.5-day Linux education and training conference, similar to FaucetCon. For those who been to FaucetCon, hasn't been, on open source. We'll have a day of keynotes and speakers. And when I say keynotes and speakers, from what people hear, we come from the technology portion. I think we've had enough motivational speaking out at the conference. We want to get to the nitty gritty. A lot of people want to know the what's now. One of our big taglines is the follow-up. So you'll definitely be getting a lot of the follow-up and getting your questions answered and getting a roadmap to the next steps. And then day two, we'll have labs, and as Tameika said, you'll be on there, you'll be building machines, you'll be breaking them down, you will learn how to install and all that other good stuff. And so it'll be here. Our big mission is to get more tech conferences in the Southeast. We're the biggest concentration of people of color live, but we don't have access to, the big conferences because of the price of them in the time. And so that's our mission, to get those down here in South.
And what is it? And for those who don't know or are listening who haven't heard of FaucetCon, it's a free and open source software conference. It's actually founded and organized by Brian. I want to say Smith. I don't think his last name is Smith. He's a Blacks in Technology member. He was in our IRC channel for quite a long time. I don't know where he's at right now. I'm actually going to contact him after this podcast and see what he's up to. But that is a big conference that he puts on, and he really tries to have a diverse set of speakers. He reaches out to people, women, people of color, especially to try to get them speaking engagements at that conference. So that's a really cool conference. If you can attend. I don't know when it's coming up this year.
I can second that motion. It was a great conference. It was a great conference.
Nice.
It was.
Hopefully I can get to the next one. But when is the Women in Linux Summit happening?
Our target date is August 19th through the 22nd here in the St. Petersburg area. And so be looking out on our website, checking with us to see when what our location will be. But that is our TBD date.
And to add to all of that as well too, if there are any female speakers out there in technology that do security, I know I follow a lot of people. I've reached out, but if you want to speak on security of containers, how to build out a server automation, Puppet, Chef, Ansible, anything that you can use as a Linux as a foundation and build upon that. We're more than welcome to send me an email or tweet
or
me.
Teach a lab. Or teach a lab.
Yeah, teach a lab or whatever, because the key also here is not just the exposure, but also getting women up on stage talking. That's another point that I want to make, because I get nervous. I'm not going to sit here in line and say I'm ready to talk. I get nervous. But
right.
I still do it. You settle down after a while and you get into it and you do it. But yeah, I'm looking for speakers. I don't want to have all men speaking. But if I don't get any women, then I'll have a choice.
Right. So what I want to do then is I definitely want to help you promote your summit. So. Send me over the information, and I'll write up a blog post. I'll post it. I'll tweet it out, and I'll try to do whatever I can to direct people to your website, and so they can learn more about the summit, and hopefully you can get more speakers that way. So
we appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. So how can others support? Tameika, if somebody else wanted to support your organization, what are some ways that they can do that?
Well, we're looking for support for anything. If somebody want to help curriculum, they can email me at womeninlinux.com. That we'll both get that. If you just want to just know more, and put it like this: if you're stuck at work on a problem and you need help, you can email me. I try to help you out.
Okay.
I understand what it feels like to be stuck and you don't have anyone to call on. Oh my God, my system is at the grow up prompt. What do I do? Reinstall it? Just anything that that you could think of that you can help out with in terms of curriculum, speaking engagements, just getting the word out. Like if you want us to come to your area and do an install, or if you want to do something with Women in Linux, like you may want to teach a class virtually. I'm all game. I'm all for it.
Yeah, we're looking for partnerships in founding sponsors, in kind, community partners. With our curriculum, we're looking for local companies that have IT departments that are looking to host 3-month internships for women. So when they come out of our curriculum, they can get some real world experience. We think that's really, really important. Really, really important to get in there after you take the class, because I know from experience you can do all of that training, and if you don't have anything to work on, you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Right. Okay. And so what's next for Women in Linux? We talked about the summit that's coming up, but what other things are you all going to be doing?
So I have a couple of speaking engagements coming up for women in Linux and getting more women into technology in general, but more so for women in Linux. We're also working on like a couple of other projects. I got a dating website that we're getting ready to launch as well for geeks. For men and women who want to date another geek, we're all about that. So we're launching that as well. I think Dionne has a whole slew of other things that she has listed.
Well, hey, Greg gave us a format. Tameika just be going, and she just goes with it. But pertaining to
it's open source, right?
We're not there.
It's open source.
I like structure, and I think I do like structure because I'm project manager. It's my job to do structure, but as far as for women in Linux, being more visible in the community, especially our backyard, which is the Southeast. We'll be going to OSCON in May, which is cool. Of course, we have the Women in Linux Summit in August. We are putting together a college tour in the Southeast, exposing young adults to Linux. That's really important to us. And, of course, building out this curriculum, looking for partners, community partners, mentors that want to come to the table and help us build out this curriculum.
Okay. We got a couple more questions. I want to get a couple of questions. We did have some come from Twitter.
Twitter.
Yeah. You guys are popping tonight. Yeah, I usually don't get a lot of questions from Twitter at all. So special occasion. Right. So this is from Obsidian Star. He or she wants to know what was the first one? He had a few questions. Okay. Questions or thoughts? Bash on Win 10. What do you think about that?
I think it's actually great. I actually was playing with Azure today, or Azure, however you want to say that. But I think it's great for those that who do come from a strong Linux background, who don't ever pick up and do PowerShell. So I have a coworker that never touches Linux. He was like, I don't know what to do in this bash shell. So it now for me, which I'm not afraid of PowerShell or command line, it just makes it a little bit more tangible. It makes it easier, because what is actually transitioning and happening in the workplace now is most people want someone who can do Linux and Windows and integrate that together and on top of that, integrate Apple on top of that. So they want somebody that knows everything. And so you have to ask yourself, you ask yourself, what school that is that where I can go learn everything? So having Bash to me is awesome. I'm all for it. I am all for trying something new. So if you haven't tried it, go try it, because I'm probably gonna hop off of here and try it.
The closest thing I've come to that is what was it, Sidwin?
Mm-hmm.
Probably the closest thing. But
Right.
I guess I'll throw it in a VM and see what it's all about.
Right.
I haven't read too much up on it yet,
Mhm.
so I'll tinker around with it. So what's another question from the same person, Obsidian Star? The best flavor of Linux for a newbie.
Well, somebody is probably gonna tell you Ubuntu. I've just grown up off of Red Hat, but then there's Arch Linux, there's Linux Mint. If you're hardcore, somebody's probably gonna tell you you're not a true administrator until you install Slackware and build your own box out. You know what I mean? Like, so it's gonna tell you
Right.
you're not even real until you install Slackware. It depends on how on how comfortable you are. My suggestion would be, if you're looking to transition into a job, the two that I would stick with would be the CentOS Red Hat, because they're both by the same people, or one's upstream, one's stable, and then Ubuntu. If you're looking for something for a laptop and you want to make sure everything works, Ubuntu is probably your better bet, or Fedora. If you just want to play around and you have never, ever really played with Linux before and you just want to see how it works, I would suggest maybe SUSE Linux or Gentoo. Because what that gives you with the Gentoo and the SUSE Linux is just, okay, I've learned pretty much a Debian base here, and you go from there, and then you make the transition into Ubuntu, and then when you get over to Red Hat or CentOS or Fedora, you're like, oh, this is a little different. However, it's still Linux. It's just some commands have changed from what you were probably currently using. So, those are my top 6. I am sure someone is going to dispute that, but those are my top 6.
I definitely agree. I started out with Debian. That was a friend of mine who was a huge InfoSec guy actually helped me out with a Pixie boot of Debian, and that was my first introduction into Linux. And then I did some installs of Red Hat. I even messed around with Mandrake Linux once. And then I used Debian on my laptop for a long time. That's all I would install. I never installed anything else differently up until a couple of years ago, where I installed Ubuntu. But everything I do at work is CentOS or Red Hat. So you're right. Depending on where you want to go with that. I definitely suggest CentOS or CentOS, however you want to pronounce that, and Red Hat, because that's what a lot of enterprises are definitely running. So
taking it from a newbie, I got thrown on Red Hat.
Okay,
that was good.
I would have to do Red Hat.
So for newbies, start with GUI or start with the CLI?
You gotta go command line. All right. She's so proud of me. She is. She's so proud of me. I do things and it's just awe and amazing. And she didn't say, I was like, out of her 16 years, I'm like I am the only friend that was interested in technology that stuck with it.
This is where you cue your claps. Hold on.
So for me, because I was a Windows user, and so you get used to looking at the GUI, and if people don't know, it's the graphical user interface where all the pretty stuff, the point and click. So you can't learn Linux and still be in the point and click. And so I tell everybody, I said at one point we were all using command line because you have to do Control P to print. So you have to strip all of that away, and as you learn, you can start installing, a GUI and things of that nature so that you can see it. But I like the command line, and I go, to it every once in a while. But in order to be like a real Linux person, you got to do command line.
Right. And recently, I just actually, so I got a new job. So anyhow,
Congratulations.
So thank you. I'm on a Mac now. So that's been pretty cool to transition. It's cool to have this real cool, GUI, and then switch over to a command prompt in its bash, and not the regular Linux command prompt, and then be able to not Linux but Windows command prompt, and be able to do all these commands in the bash shell that I'm used to doing, and I'm doing it on something that has all these pretty graphics and things like that. So it actually hasn't been as hard as I thought, the transition, because my main desktop in my last job was Windows, so when I got the new job, the director asked me if I wanted a Dell or if I wanted a Mac, and I asked for his recommendation, and he said use a Mac. It might take you about a month to really get acclimated to it, and within a few days I was just like,
where have you been all my life?
Right.
Yeah,
I like it. There's a few things that I'm kind of like, but I'm, and it's mainly probably because of ignorance of where I don't know where everything is at yet. But I'm starting to like it a lot more every day. So.
Well, I'm in love with mine. I went down kicking and screaming as well, because most of I did. I was like, no, I don't want that. And like, no, I don't want to have to relearn anything. And
right.
I love my Mac, and it goes down in the VM. I went and got me a little Windows box on my Mac, because most of my clients, they use, even though I have Office for Mac, it doesn't come with Publisher. So, I had to go build a VM and put Office on there and Windows, and she was so proud of me, because I was like, I can do it by myself. I can do it myself. I go over, but see, I can do it by myself. But still, even transitioning on, my laptop from the commands and stuff, I crack myself up, because they call me keyboard banger, because I'm always I'm always working.
No, because she's always tearing that keyboard up.
I be in it. I be in it, boy. I be in it.
It's a good thing that you have a Mac, because those things are definitely built pretty sturdy.
Aren't they? It's the best. It is the best. I was like, I'm in it to win it, always.
Okay. So, before we get out of here, how can people get more information about Women in Linux, and how can they contact you? I'll start with you, Tameika.
Women at womeninlinux.com. You can also go by the site at womeninlinux.com. You can go to Meetup. I think we just have one in the Southeast.
Womeninlinux.com.
Right. for Meetup at Women in Linux.
The Twitter is
Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook.
All of at Women in Linux.
Everything you could possibly think of. We're on Slack as well. So
nice.
We're kind of much everywhere. I even think I made a Pinterest and an Instagram.
Hey,
it goes down. Goes down in the DM.
You gotta have your presence felt. You gotta have your presence felt online. Hey,
yeah.
What's funny is that I was so surprised that domain had not been taken. I'm thinking, Women in Linux. It sounds like it would be pretty common, and I thought it would be somebody would have already snatched it up and taken.
We did.
It's good that.
So what has happened was when I started, it's still up. It was somebody wasn't maintaining it, but it was Linux Chicks, and Linux Chicks was around for a very long time, and the site went dormant probably a good 7, maybe 8 years, if not longer. And just recently here, year and a half or so, it's been revitalized, and they're using Drupal, and they brought it back. But I'm not sure who's maintaining that. That site has been, but that site has been around probably around, I want to say 2005 maybe. So it's been around a while. But I mean, I don't know who those people are. But that site is active, so that's just if you don't like my site and you're a woman and you want to go somewhere else, that's another option. I just want you to, I just want people, women in particular, to realize that there are options, and you can get out there and you can at least find some support. And a lot of people tell you to go down to the IRC. That's where you'll find a lot of Linux people at. And then the question becomes, what do I do when I join the IRC, and who do I talk to? Are they welcoming? Are they not? So it's kind of one of those things. Like,
and we will be launching. We will be launching kids in Linux in the future, and we have Black men in Linux and some other good stuff. She's already told you about 50/50 Geek, our online social and interactive dating site, and we'll be having a lot of good stuff coming out of the Women in Linux world.
We'll definitely keep Blacks in Technology in the loop, because I tell a lot of the guests who come on here, whatever I can do, however I can promote you, let me know. That's what this is about for me. Anyhow, is it's establishing these type of relationships and building a community. I think what you all are doing is great. And the reason why I brought up the whole womenlinux.com is because it's great that you all got the domain, but to me it was also kind of sad, because I thought that somebody would have come along earlier and already had something like this going. And so, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of bittersweet. It's great that you all have it, and you guys are expanding on Women in Linux and doing some wonderful things. And it's definitely overdue. So I'm glad you all are doing what's necessary. So again, hit me up, keep me in the loop. Whatever I can do, it's done. So thank you for coming on, and is there you guys you two have any parting words for our listening audience?
Tameika's good with the closers. What you got, Tameika?
The keyboard bringer word I have is don't be afraid to try it out. Like, the one thing I would recommend is I think Azure is free, or Google Cloud or something like that. And I know those things can be kind of convoluted, but Parler DigitalOcean would be a better choice, because it's kind of a simple interface to use. And just build a machine out there. I think it's $5 a month for you to have a VM out in the cloud, learn how to SSH to it, go to YouTube, because when I was going through it, it wasn't no YouTube. You couldn't learn on YouTube. It was, you better get this book and highlight and cut and paste, because this is all you got. So I encourage people to go and try. Just go and try it. If you don't know anything about Linux, here's your chance to learn something about Linux. Here's your chance to learn something about security or cloud, administration, and learn, and don't be afraid, because guess what? You're learning for free. Well, that's one thing you're doing. You're learning for free. You got your time that you got to account for. But if you do, I made sure I did an hour a day. So do an hour a day. Even if you fall asleep and you end up deleting your VM, or you wrote too many words and you hit Z like 5,000 times, just know that you can get that back. Just know that you can always start over.
And so I do have a closing remark. I'm going to tell you, like my statistics professor used to tell our class, do not be roadkill on the informational superhighway.
I like that.
That's it. Keyboard banger out. Women in Linux. Get a change. Follow up. Hit us on the Twitter.
Well, ladies, definitely. I had a great time tonight. This is great. I definitely wish you all the best of luck in everything that you do. Like I said, keep me informed, keep me in the loop, and hopefully, and you know what? I looked at the Women in Linux Summit, and I think that's when LinuxCon is going on. So unfortunately, I won't be able to make it there, but hopefully some members within our community will be able to make it and support you all. And like I said, send me information about that so I can get that up on the site and promote that for you. So thanks a lot for joining me tonight.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
I hope everybody got something out of it.
Oh, definitely. I'm pretty sure they did. Thanks a lot.
All right, now.
Take care. And that is it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast. I want to thank all of our guests, Tameika Reed and Dionne Parler of the Women in Linux organization. Thanks to the listening audience for listening in on this podcast. If you like what you heard tonight, you want to let us know. If you have suggestions or comments, email them to us at contact@blacksintechnology.net. Join us in 2 weeks for another Bit Tech Talk podcast where our guest will be Daryl Austin, the Chief Marketing Officer at Blurp, a social media app that allows you to post, share, and search content across a number of different social media platforms. So tune in for that. April 14th is the next Bit Tech Talk podcast. And remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care and have a good night.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.